Check, check, 1, 2. Going live, going live. Hello, everybody. Let's get this camera up a little bit here. New haircut. Look at that. No more long-haired hippie dude with my Frank Zappa bush. I was really jigging that. It took years to grow. I mentioned it, the reasons why in another video, and but with my new jobs, conforming, not my thing, but hey, you gotta make money, right? Helpful to be presentable to customers, so had to do the classic shave, and it looks presentable too, so I guess I'm alright. But you're not here for my hair, you're here for guitar, and so let's make it once again. Sorry to block you there. Get it so you can see the fretboard and me. Anyways, so rare opportunity that I'm live today, being that this new job, as I explained in one of my other videos, takes me away for 3 to 4 weeks at a time, and I'm in a van delivering goods across the country, which is a neat little gig. Not as glorifying as the internet can make it out to be, but it's pretty cool, and hopefully it pays pretty good. Haven't got a first paycheck yet, but coming up, should know Monday. Anyways, one reason I'm here today is because one of the loads from Minneapolis to Toronto got delayed until a Sunday delivery. Meant I had a couple days to take the trip, and I thought, well, if I'm going to Toronto, I'm not too far from where I live in Rochester, New York, so why don't I stop in Rochester? And the company's, flexible with things like that. They know that, it is important to get home as much as you can. There's things you got to do, so they had no problem with me taking the van. Of course, it's to my expense, the extra miles I do, but to get it home and get here so I could take care of some laundry and some things and grab a guitar for the road, because I didn't bring my guitar the first time. It didn't fit in my tiny little smart car to go get the van. You don't need to know all these details and stuff, so but I didn't bring a guitar, and then I did have some downtime where I was sitting around thinking, I could use a guitar right now, and I did get the wise idea to just go to a guitar center, walk in there and start playing some guitars, right? But it's also nice to just be able to sit in your van and have your own practice time. So that being said, I'm here today to, one of the things I'm going to do is grab a guitar, which is cool, but also I thought, hey man, get on and make a live video, or at least do something for your channel to keep it going, and everyone will like that. And also, I got a new subscriber that I want to mention, and I want to mention this awesome little comment that I got the other day. I'll read that to you in a second. Thank you, Dora. So, first things first, yeah, I don't even know what the lesson is going to be about today, so maybe someone will go to the chat area and ask a question. That would be a great thing to do. Give me some stuff to talk about. Within the last few minutes before I got to this, I was learning the solo for Sultans of Swing, which is a pretty cool solo. I pretty quickly learned that it's basically around D minor. You can think of a lot of it in the D minor pentatonic shape, along with the A minor. Throw in a B major arpeggio in there. You can hear some of it in there. It's sloppy and brand new to me, but of course the song isn't new to me. Just it's not too hard to learn solos that are those songs. Sometimes, I know for like a time, if Sultans of Swing, and a certain time in my life, Sultans of Swing came on the radio, I'm like, oh God, not this song again, and you would change it because, rock radio tends to really hang on some classic tunes and overplay them till you're sick of them. But if you explore like the soul, the feeling that song gives you, you can really find out why they play that song so much. It's just such a great song, and then they can be easy to learn because that solo is so in your mind that it just helps you learn it easier, I think. Something like that. And so, yeah, I picked it up pretty quick, even though that every time I really became interested in playing that solo because every time I've ever tried to play that, it's one of those solos that just doesn't come off the top of your head. You just can't pick up your guitar and like, oh yeah, that's what he's doing, And I've always tried the pentatonic box, and I'm like, this is something more, but it's really not. It's the majority of pentatonic box with some gut notes in there from the major scale. The major scale just has a couple of notes added inside of the framework there, and then a couple of arpeggios thrown in there, which is just simply parts of bar chords that you already know. Okay, so on to other things here. We could maybe explore that solo if you want, but first of all, I'd like to thank my latest subscriber. A couple of days ago, I saw a Kirk Kavanaugh subscribe to the channel, so thanks, dude. Hope you enjoy. Go around and exploring, ask questions, tell me what you need to know, and I'll try to explain it to you in that mind's eye, visual, graph paper method kind of way. And here's a really cool little letter I got from Adora M. It says, "Hi, I would just like to thank you for sharing your knowledge with us." You're welcome. It says, "I firmly believe your method should be a legitimate course, as good and efficient as anything sold in the market." Well, that is a very, very kind sentiment, and I really appreciate that you said that because that is on my mind here. Making a guitar course and putting it out there, and the reservation that I have is either sadly, with this job I don't have a lot of time now. That's a legitimate excuse, but before, when I could have been making this course, there's always been something else is coming up. The day's nice. I wanted to ride my e-bike or something like that. And then there's the thought that, well, I don't know. I can think of kind of what I could make, but, maybe it's not good enough. Or, there's already other guitar courses. And, everybody on those sites, they tell you, look, it doesn't matter that there's 100 other courses. You have your way of explaining it, so go ahead and get your course done, get it made. So things like this help reinforce that in my mind and get me to do it. So thank you, because it's like the I don't know, I need fuel, like an engine to work, and that's the fuel I need. This people that say, hey, go ahead and do it. This is something that we would be interested in. So anyways, let me read the whole comment before I dissect it. So just to repeat, I firmly believe your method should be a legitimate course, as good and efficient as anything sold in the market. Your method truly opened my mind and made me realize aspects I had never had before. I understand you're busy, but I would love to see a sequence in a series of videos building one from the other, from the ground up. I wish you all the best, and I hope your channel grows more and more. Have a good night. That's totally awesome because it's so on point with what I've been thinking I need to do, which is what she says here. Make a sequence in a series of videos, building one from the other, from the ground up. Perfectly well put, because that is exactly word for word what I need to do. And what I've been planning to do. But, sorry, guitar, my foot unplugged the guitar here. What I've been planning to do, but just think about it and never get around to it now. Can I do that? I could probably get started on it today, but there would be nothing uploaded, so I guess I'll probably work on it a little later today. Sorry for the clatter there with the guitar cable plugging in. It'll probably be maybe something I work on today. I won't be able to upload anything. I don't think I'll get anything done, but I'm thinking about starting a whole new channel because that would clean it up a lot and make it a lot more straightforward. You wouldn't have to arrive at this channel and filter through 8 million other videos just to find the course. So come up with a good course or channel name. I was thinking I had a couple, now I forgot them. The graph method or something like that. Something I can shout out to people, on the street, and they won't have to get a spelling either. Because if you say like the graph method, they might spell graph, Graf, and not find it. I don't think anybody would do that. Graph is graph, but I don't know. So that being said, what do we talk about today? What do we do guitar-wise? So thank you, Dora, for your comment. That's super awesome, and I'm definitely going to work on making a course. You know what? Here's what we'll do. Since I don't see anybody asking questions, let me toggle over to that screen, and I'm not having any watchers right now. So how I would start, if I was to make the course today, this is what you would see. We would start with a key. You would need notes. This is the very first thing you would need. Notes. Funny, paper notes about real notes, about guitar notes. And we'd make a key. How funny that, like a key like on a map, there's a key on a map, but funny, key is also the word for key. Anyways, I would start with a master key of basically that would be a reference chart for any time you're confused. You would go back to this chart and you would be able to put all the pieces together. Like if you hear someone talking about intervals, you would be able to look at this chart. If you hear someone talking about notes on the piano or a scale or a mode, you would be able to look at this chart and get your bearings on and reference it to your guitar. So here's what you'd want to do. The very first thing you'd want to start is just basically list 1 through 12 to represent the 12 notes. And let's answer a question right off the bat with this. Why 12 notes? This is the very first thing you should know about music in the Western scale, Western hemisphere. There's 24 notes, I guess, are common in other parts of the world. But I'll show you right now. This is my easiest way that you could learn, like, why are there 12 notes? I mean, there could be 53 notes. There could be 144 notes. What makes them 12? Well, first of all, notes are frequencies, and it's math. And when math is exactly doubled, like when 2 becomes 4, that's an exact double of 2. So there's like a relationship between 2 and 4. Okay, so with the frequency of notes, they double up so that the same note just rings out higher. For example, what you know is an octave. They sound different. One is higher than the other, but they sound the same. That was in what? A B. All the same note, but they sound higher because the frequency is higher. So as you go up, eventually the notes repeat to the same note. Even though it's a different higher note, it's the same note. Like on a piano. Oops. So in between those notes, you can divide them up. You can divide the sounds up into as many little slices as you want. So you could do like 100 notes would sound like this. So here is basically, let's start off like this. We're going to do an octave here. We're going to start with an F. Oops, let's see if I can get this more on camera here. We need my camera on my guitar a little more. Guitar camera to the rescue. Okay. Still not low enough here. I'll show the high parts here. You'll lose a little bit of me. Hi, bye. Anyways. So in between there and there, let's divide up 100 little notes there. Oops. I'm getting a little sloppy, but this is what the notes would sound like. Like here's, basically one note to the next and normally. A nice separation between notes. Like you clearly know that there's some difference there. Let's make 3 notes instead of those 2 in the same spot. So we'd have aside from the sloppiness there, you can hear that it adds in an extra measure of complexity there at 24 notes. That's just adding one note in between the... You can do that with a slide on your guitar to hear it for yourself. And to our ears, that might sound like you were slightly sharp or slightly flat on a note, like something is out of tune. And that is an example of the 24-tone system found in, I think, some Eastern music, like from India. And so I'm sure there's some beautiful pieces and all that stuff there, but I'm not familiar with any of that, so we're going to move on here. And if you really got crazy and added in a ton of notes, there's 5 in between each note. How do you tell the notes apart is basically what happens. It becomes not so distinguishable, and you lose the definition that we find in a 12-tone system where you can clearly hear the difference between a major and a minor, and then a slightly different version of minor, like a minor mode or something, that has like one note difference, and you can tell that it brings a whole new character to the sound. If you've heard of modes and modal music before, that's what you're hearing there. Differences in scales by 1 or maybe 2 notes that create this whole new emotion, and you can get that because there's definite definition in between the notes. So that's why there's 12 notes, in case you wondered. So next what you'd want to do is probably label them as, let's see, would we want to know intervals or probably note names first? So we'll put the note names here, and we're going to start like this. We're going to start on C. Now, you might say this, Mark, why not start on A? I mean, if it goes A through G, why not start on A? And why does it start on C? Well, we're going to use C because the original, way back when, the first scale that was thought to be like the basic starting out scale was actually a minor scale. and not a major scale. So they started from the A note with what we would call today the natural minor scale. And as music developed and developed, people gravitated toward wanting to use the major scale as the basis for music. So that, without changing all the letters, that means that we're starting from C instead of A. That'll make more sense as you begin to understand music. But that's all you need to know right now, is because the first question there is, why does this got to be confusing? Why don't we just start A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Why do we start with C? Well, that's why. Because way back when, A was the original scale. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So starting from, let's say here, it was A, skip a note, B, don't skip a note for C, and that just doesn't show up very well. It would look like this, because there's our 1 again. After 12, it always repeats 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So A, B, C. This is a whole step, which you can hear on your instrument or on a piano by skipping, playing 2 white keys that skip a black key. Okay, so, and then a half step is just 2 notes consecutively. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. They like that sound. They started with a serious scale. They basically divided up all 12 in this manner by skipping a note, not skipping a note, skipping a note, not skipping a note, and then skipping a note, and it left one more skip right there, and that was decided to be the major scale. But then eventually people gravitated toward liking the sound from the C, so that's why we're going to put the C on the 1, because if we take that same group that we did, but we just start from the C, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Had an errant note in there, but anyways, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And that's what we get here by, you get do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do by skipping steps like that. So let's write that on the top. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and then back to do. And you can hear the magic there, because whenever you play that, oops, sorry. Start again. Now I stopped before I went back to the original do, kind of all of a sudden you're like, yes, there's the completion. Well, what you just got is your first experience of tension and release, and the major scale has this nice selection of tension and release. And you can see here how it does that in this. Basically, you pull some notes. If you played all 12 notes, that would be a chromatic scale, and it doesn't, it's just all the notes. There's no musical tension created by skipping some but not skipping others, and not creating a pattern. And the pattern here, if you noticed, is 3. Let's erase this word key. 3 and 4. There's this, I think his name is Ben Stein, and I just saw that he created a video basically talking about what something I've talked about a lot on my channel, and that is basically the secret of 3 and 4. And I didn't watch his video yet, but I just saw by the title he's got to be onto what I'm talking about here. By basically, like, if you were on one string, you can find out the key to any song. I've talked about this in other videos, by finding out 3 notes that work that are skip notes. Skip a fret, skip a fret. Now, if you found out that there was a half step before this one and a half step after, you've got your group of 3, and then after your half step is going to be your group of 4. See, I'm going to play, you'll hear do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do if I play 1, 2, 3. Then, joining up to that with a half step, I play 4 notes. So, do, re, mi, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's your 3 and 4 code. And from there, I'd probably have my students, like, I'll figure this out when I want to make my real video. I might put some things in different orders here, but just to make it kind of easy. And here what you can do is, you could even, well, maybe I'll do that in a separate row just to make it more clear. C, and then we'll just, that one is a sharp and that one is a flat. So you just do that. On all the in-between, just put a slash there and write the note before and the right note after. So you know that's D sharp, E flat, E, F, Okay, so we've got a piano keyboard listed there. Kind of funky one, but you can see the same thing as a piano, the 3 white keys and then the 4 white keys with the 2 black keys and then the 3 black keys. And then all our note names there. So you can reference on a piano, you can kind of know, play, sometimes if you have a keyboard available, you can do things like and play things like that, which was Mixolydian in nature because a G was ringing out while I played in the C major scale, but don't worry about that now. So, and you could know that because, you know, that's the note that you pressed on the keyboard and hit your sustain pedal, and then you played the notes of the C major scale. But as you see, you weren't, you know, playing the first note of the scale, you're playing the 5th note of the scale. How could we know that? Well, we'll get to that in a second, but what you really want to know also, it's going to be very important to start out understanding the more advanced lessons, like when you, you know, see anything from Rick Beato, Adam Neely, or Jens Larson, learning jazz, great teachers, great channels, and but very advanced stuff. But you can jump right into starting to know really what they're talking about by simply knowing this, your intervals. So the next one we want to write is intervals. So you can name these ones like here. You could write down all notes. You could write down major scale, key. You can write down piano note names, then all note names, piano keyboard right there. Put yourself a little note right there. We're not going to do that today. And I'm going to write down these intervals. And I'm going to check for questions, see if there's anybody watching. But I did promise I'd go live today. I told myself I better get going live today since I have a day at home. So what we got here is root. We'll always consider our starting note. Root doesn't always have to be here, but for example's sake, this is how it would work. You start with a root note and you go flat 2, 2. You know what we even want to do first? Hold on a second here. Just like we did with the note names, let's start basic and then go complex. So here's what we're going to do. We're just going to basically go root. So you can understand like how chords are built. This is and the numbering of the scale. What's the 2 note? What's the 3 note in C major? What's the 4th note? What's the 5th note? What's the 6th note? And the 7th note? And you can, when you need to do other scales, you could basically write the same thing down, but change this to different notes, and they'll line up. I don't want to get too complicated so people don't understand, but you'd see with sharps and flats. That first scale I played, just going back to answer the question, wait a minute, how come there's no sharps and flats in this scale? How come there's some in other scales? Because that's why this A and C shape or scale were created. They chose these notes out of the 12 and gave them whole names, and then left the blanks in between to be filled in by, well, that's this sharp and this flat, this sharp and this flat. That's how the sharps and the flats got their names, and the other notes have these names. That frequency has this name, 440 has A, and so on and so forth. So then we're going to write down some intervals here. Or actually, no. Well, that'll come next. Like I said, we're going to go simple here. So C is often referred to as the 1, and the 1 is often referred to as the root. So we're going to put R there for root. The D is the 2. The E is the 3. F is the 4, and so on, easy, so forth. 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you hear of the 6th chord, A, or you hear the 5th chord, G, or you hear the term 2, 5, 1, what's somebody talking about? They're talking about the 2, the 5, and the 1. In the key of C, that would be the D, the G, and the C. D, G to C. I was just thinking something. To even be more clear, this will come up later. Yes, those are still the same notes, but I'm going to write a lowercase d, a lowercase e, and then a lowercase a, and then whatever with a b. We'll just leave that as it is. We should probably lowercase it since it is minor as well, but it's diminished. Excuse my natural indigestion there. So what I was getting at is like basically D minor, G7. Here, let's just do that there. So we want to put down, this is a major, put a lower M there, a lower M there. It's a major chord, a minor. Put down here chords. You're probably wondering why, how, who made this up, how does it work, why does it work? First of all, in your notes there, put a capital M for major, then a smaller M for minor, major. 7, because you're often going to hear about this as the dominant 7th chord, then a minor chord, and put dim for diminished. So why does it work like that? Well, here's the deal. We have to know this next part to understand it. So let's write down this. Now it's time for intervals. So you want to write down root again. You want to write down flat 2. Put a little B there, and then a 2. Make your 2 smaller. And as usual, I go off screen and I'm not paying attention. Better for everybody? Okay. Now make a regular 2. Make a smaller 3 with B, and then a regular 3. Notes work in groups, and these groups need an identifier. So to identify these groups of notes, like they kind of work together like workers, and workers have jobs, and these groups have jobs. Like this group here is the seconds, the flatted second and the major second, or minor second and major second. A couple different names for the same thing. And they're basically the notes, this. It's got a job to do. It's a half step. It has lots of different ways it works in music. A whole step. Skip a note. So half step. They both sound like steps. That's the tiniest step you can take. And it's got like a minor sound. This is the normal step. Step, 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 step. And so that gets a name of a 2. If you go more than that, you're doing what's called a leap. And you're leaping into a new bracket of tones. This is probably the most important bracket of tones that you're going to know about. This creates a major and minor chord, and that's going to answer what the question we just had as to why is this one major and why is this one minor and this one minor. So if you jump over 2 frets and play the note, it's got a sound. Now let's jump over 3 frets to get to this one and hear the difference in sound. So first the jump in 2 frets. Now let's jump 3 frets. There's quite a drastic kind of emotional difference. Here I'm worried about things. Things are uncertain, and things here are resolved and joyous. Happy chord. Sad chord. Not really a chord or dyad. But anyways, the difference between major and minor, very important. I won't go over each and every interval here, I don't think, but you can name them like this. Here we write in 4. 4 is unique, and it stands alone in its musicalness. It really comes out in chords. There's really nothing happy or sad about it. It's just suspended. The emotion, happy or sad, is suspended with the 4th. Gives it an airy, spacey kind of sound, some would say so. And it's congruent with the 1. The frequencies make good math. So they sound okay, but it's not happy or sad, so it's called the 4th. And if you see a 4th in a chord, it's a suspended chord. So you get used to that. Now you start to know what the 4th is. And it's always straight below the note you're playing. So if I play a note on the E string, this is the 5th fret of the E string here. Hello, so you can see the nut there. It's a nut straight below the D. Hence, that your guitar just play the 2 open strings from the top, the E and the A. That's a 4th, A to D, 4th, 4th. This is not a 4th, and this is a 4th. It's a major 3rd and then a 4th, but for all intents and purposes, your guitar is tuned in 4ths going that way, and if you go up, that interval turns into a 5th. Crazy, right? But E to A, or I'm sorry, A to E, you can see it right here from 1 to 5. Very common interval we'll get to in a second, but in between that 5, there's this interval here, and it's called the flat 5th. Flatted 5th. You'll hear a lot about this in jazz. You'll hear about it in this diminished chord. This flatted 5th. It is the exact halfway point between all the notes. So there's a whole bunch of special uniqueness with this flat 5th. It's the one that in classical music times they avoided because it was called the devil's interval, because at that point, exactly halfway in between the notes, is a ton of tension. Let's hear it. Definitely you've heard that in emergencies. If the scariest part of a movie is probably going to involve some sort of tritone, that's also called the tritone. If you're a diminished scale, all that stuff is definitely anything strange, totally out of the box, really off the wall. You're probably hearing the tritone. And in that dominant 7th chord, that happy chord has a tritone interval, which is why it's not just major, it becomes the 7th because of that tritone interval. So anytime you have notes that are, remember the 4th was straight up and down, well, now take your that one below and go up a fret. So you're making an angle that way. You have a tritone. Now, if you just went, hey, that D chord, that does this, that is not a tritone, even though it makes that same shape, because remember the interval between these 2 strings is not the same as the other ones. This is not the perfect 4th. Like we just talked about, this would be the interval of a flat 5th between those 2 strings, the same as what's a power chord on the other strings. Okay, so let's get off of that. There's 8 million things you can talk about and can create a whole lesson, so we just got to move on. But you get the idea of why that's got that. Now there's the normal 5th, and the 5th is so important. Like the 5th is the basically the rock. It's where your music mostly goes. Chord progressions usually start somewhere, go to the 5th, and come back to where they started. You go to the 5th, you come back. That's where you go to, and then your route is back home wherever you started. So let's say you had a basic song that started on the 1 in the key of C. It probably goes wherever it goes, probably goes to the G and comes back to the C. Then the 2, then to the 5, then to the 1. So, yeah. And the 5, you always hear the 2, 5, 1 because the 5 has that strongest resolution to the 1 chord for whatever reason that happens. But get used to that. The 5 is associated with the 1, and you just know that from every rock song you've ever learned. 1-5-1. It's the strongest. It's like a rock, with the 1. You just put the 5 with it. Sounds like the most congruent note to the 1. Let's hear it on a keyboard. Here's the tritone. Now go up an interval to the good 5th. Let's go take that up. Once again, you're way off, but right on the 5th, the math is great with the 1. So anyways, so there's that. So now what do we have here? Going up from the 5th, the 5th is so important that you can see here it creates this group of 3. It's the only interval that's using 3 of the sames, because the 5th is the 5th. So, basically you have less than the 5th and more than the 5th when you're around the 5th, because the 5th is the strongest interval in relationship to the 1. Like kind of the strongest match. The most harmonious, I guess, would be the musical term. So, sharp 5th. Let's hear it. It's pretty. Instead of here's a normal chord with a 1 on the G and a second note on the 5th. The rest of the chord. It's a bar chord G. Let's sharpen the 5th. Maybe we'll take out some of the notes. Sounds great as a minor. Normal 5th. Sharpen 5th. Pretty, right? I thought so. So there's an example of, the magic of a sharp 5th. Sometimes it can be a flatted 6. Depends on, in music theory, sometimes the nature of the way things have to be explained. These things can be, the explanation can be slightly altered a bit at times, but don't worry on. It's not going to happen much in this group, but sometimes here you might find that as a flatted 6. But for the most intents and purposes, probably usually if something is including the 5th and no 6, but the 5th and the sharp 5th, that would be then the flatted 6, because you'd want to have you're just a way to cleanly explain things, as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you have a 4, a 5, and then a flatted 6. But if you did not have a 5th in the music and you were just using a sharp 5th, then you could explain it as 1, 4, and then sharp 5, and 6, if that makes any sense to you. So the next one is obviously the 6th. And another thing you can do down here is when you hear chord extensions, here's the 9th. The 3rd does not. And then here's the 11th. And then here's the 13th. So flat 13th. And on. So anyways, you can put chord extensions. As you pick higher up notes that are actually the same notes, but just higher up. In chord speak, they become these intervals. And so if you hear someone talking about a 9th chord and a 11th chord and a 13th chord, that's what they're talking about. Anything higher than the 7th here, which is the last 2 that we have to fill out before we repeat or get into our higher extensions is the sevenths. And the seventh has a group of two, just like there's two operators in the seventh. So, right, flat seventh and seventh, just like how it goes. There's a flat and then a regular, a flat then a regular. The seventh is the same way. The seventh is the same way, a flat and a regular. So, in most chords, you hear about there's a seventh chord. They're talking about this note. And then sometimes you hear that there's a dominant seventh. That's because they're using this seventh. So now you know what does that. So in other words, let's play an A with this seventh. It's going to sound like this. Nice, calm. It's a jazz chord, jazz fingering there. What I do is I play, like for this A, I'm playing a root on the 6th string A, and then I'm putting that A minor shape down here, starting with this ring finger on the 6th fret of the D string. So the same shape that you would use down here for A minor. Don't change anything and move it all the way up to the 6th fret, and then play and to make it easy, you could even ring the open string there for you new beginners that have a tough time figuring things. Nice, pretty sound, right? Comfortable, relaxed. That is the major seventh, that tone there. You can actually hear there's quite a bit of tension there. Tension is when notes don't sound very good together. Check it out. It kind of wants to go somewhere. If you really listen close, you can figure and play around with other notes. You can figure where it wants to go. Try like a note below. No, it doesn't really want to go there. Let's try a note above. Oh. It resolves. Because we're one note down from the octave. Octave, seventh. But when played with the other notes, sounds pretty good. So what's this dominant seventh? What if we had a chord that was a dominant seventh that uses that note? All we need to do is flatten that one down to that interval we didn't like, that interval that we didn't like very much. It actually sounds a little bit more congruent than this. There's a lot of tension there. There's a little less tension there. And so, working from the bottom of the chord, same note, but instead of playing that, here's what we played before. So let's just lower this note. So directly under the A, directly under the D, you have a G. And you play the same notes below that you did before, so it becomes this. Now, you can think of this down here, instead of your A minor shape, we're playing the D shape right there. Remember the D chord? That little triangle that you play down here? We'll play that up here on the 5th fret. And then you can wrap your thumb around to play the A. You can play the open A, or you can bar it like this. You can play it like this. Let's see if you can see that finger in. So I got this finger, this finger, this finger. Where does that one go? That one goes. So these are all straight below each other. And this one is creating that D-shaped triangle. Let's hear them together. You might think of these totally emotionally different than I do, but I think of this like comfortable, floating on a cloud, elevator music. This one smitten, a little something a little swankier to it. You know, there's just, you can think of different lines. Start when you really let that music start flowing in your head, and you get these sounds down. They should start speaking to you more than they might as just hearing this brand new. For some of you new listeners, I remember how it was when I was first learning this and just couldn't really, since there were no musical examples and most of this wasn't explained to me in reference to musical examples, I just couldn't understand why anybody would care about these different notes. They didn't sound like much different, so who cared? What did it do? Do you need this to learn Rush? You know, and for all intents and purposes, no. But there's definitely this happening, and if you really, got deep into the parts of Rush, one of my favorite bands, Rush, and but they're rock, they're not jazz, so somewhat not as important in that music, and I could probably play a lot of their songs without having to know the difference between a major seventh and a minor seventh chord, and still, play everything according to the tab and know a lot of songs, but still not know anything about music, and therefore not be able to create my own expressive music. So there's that. There's a lot more you could. So let's go back here. We wanted to know, so why major chord, why minor chord? Well, chords are made by skipping a note. So, for example, if you want to know what a C chord is, just go to your thing here and just go C, E, G. Or if you want to know what the F chord is in this key that's listed here, you would just start here, skip a note, and skip a note. So it would be F, A, C. And if you wanted the seventh note, F, A, C, skip the D, E, F, A, C, E. Is that right? F, A, C, E. Or C, E, G, B for C7. So you'll notice that if I skip the note, like let's say we start with C and we skip the D and go to the E, notice how many spaces that is apart. That falls on the major third interval. Skip 3, major third. Let's take the D chord here. Now we can't use this chart here. We'd want to write, for example, we're going to erase this, but we'd put the root here, so we'd have a flat 2, a major 2, and then the note that we're going to get here, the skip note, we're going to skip the E and go to the F. Well, that's not 4 notes away. That's only 3 notes away. So that falls on the 1, 2, 3, right? The flat third. So that's a minor chord. These are the operators that create in a chord. This is going to tell you, is this a major chord or a minor chord? So flat 3. You can see how it appears to be a minor chord. And you can see why there's a chord scale in, you could even write that down here, chord scale in any key. Now you know what a chord scale is, and you can learn that by creating a chart like this. What's a chord scale? A chord scale is going to be the chords that come up, and it always lines up like this. It always turns out, no matter what key you're in, what notes you put here, it's always major, minor, minor, in the major scale system. Major, minor, minor, major, dominant seventh, and then minor, and then a diminished chord. Why is that diminished? Because it has a flatted third and the flatted seventh, so it creates a diminished chord. Let's see if that holds true. So we would have B, we would skip C, so it would be B, D, F, A. B, D, F, A. All right, so what's B to D? B. So let's say, to make it easy, we got a B here. So we got 1, 2, D, flat third. Okay, what's the D to F? That's from a flat third, we got 1, 2, So from a flat third, we'd have 1, 2, flat fifth. Oh. And then the F to the A. What do we got here? F to the A. We'd have a major third, or from the flatted third, or from the flat fifth, we'd have go skip 3 notes, flatted seventh. So you could basically use this chart to, figure out different chords and spellings, stuff like that. You could write this down like on its own. So maybe I can make this, there's a thing with modes here and stuff like that, but I've gone over this in other lessons, so I'm gonna, let's do this instead. Let's do a way that, just write this down so you can always figure out like the spelling of chords. Sixth, flat, seventh, and seventh. Oh yeah, and I promised I'd go to my comments section and see if there's any comments. No one watching, no comments. Nobody watches the videos. So I don't know. Let's say start with a random note here. D sharp. So we have a D sharp, E flat. And so then let's mark down all the notes after that. D sharp, D. It's going to be an E, an F, G, A, B. Because our notes always go like that. Just put a slash in between the ones so you know that that's D sharp, E flat, F sharp, G flat, G sharp, A flat, A sharp, B flat, and B sharp, C flat. All the black keys on the piano. We'll shade them in. Make it a little bit more obvious here, so you could translate this right to a piano too. You can understand what your guitar and your piano is doing. So if I wanted a D, let's say a D minor chord, or a D sharp minor chord, it would basically be D, E, G sharp, A. Let's play it in here. A D, and we need an or a D sharp, and now we need an E. Something messed up there. Oh, I screwed this whole thing up. That's why that didn't work out. Oh man! So I hope you guys caught that. So I guess we'll go to C sharp then. Not as interesting, I think. C sharp, D flat. I was like, D and E, D sharp, E. That's a, and that's not in the chord. So here now that makes more sense. In this fingering, a D minor chord, or I'm sorry, a C sharp or D flat minor. Let's answer the question right now. I'm sure a new person says, well, is it C sharp or D flat? Well, how would you know how to call that? Well, it depends on the key. Some keys, the note preceding it will be B, so this would be a C sharp minor. In other keys, the note before this one might be a can't think of an example right now, so I'm not. Maybe there would be a C already, so then you'd call this the D sharp minor. There is no minor chord with a note a half step before it, or is there? No, there really isn't. Well, I guess so. Then you would probably be in a different system, like that might perhaps be found in melodic minor or harmonic minor. If there was a C note in the scale, then that would be D sharp minor. And if there wasn't a C note before it, then it would be C sharp minor. Did I say that right? D flat minor or C sharp minor. Just depends on, just to keep the notes A, B, C, D, E, F, and so you don't have double notes. So you wouldn't want to have like a C, then a C sharp. It just simply creates a confusing naming conventions. So we should find a C sharp. We should find an E in there, but this is going to be the fifth. So the next going to be, what's our fifth going to be? Skip a note. Okay, so now I've discombobulated myself. So first of all, that's how we're going to do this to make it easy. Let's write down our scale here then. We need 1, 2, 3, and then we need 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to write down, so I totally screwed this up because now that's going to have to be major since I started on the 1 there and I blah, blah, blah. Okay. So in our scale here, so we'll change that to major now. Anyways, since it's the 1, and what do we say? The 1 is always major, the 2 is minor. In a little bit we'll do the 2 there. We'll figure that out. So the notes for our scale here, lots of black keys in this particular, as a matter of fact, a C sharp is going to use all the black keys. So it's kind of a good example that way, just to break the standard mold here. So as you can see, our key uses one white key. Is that right? How are we doing that? It was 5, 6. There's only 6 notes then. That doesn't make any sense. Something's wrong here. We did something wrong. Let's find out what we did wrong. So C sharp. Back to the 1, which is C sharp. Okay, here's what we did wrong here. Aha, maestro, figured it out. So there's our black key. Wait a minute. I have lost my mind here. But as you can see here, like, music, this is the confusion of music theory, but you can get it straightened out by graphing it out. Now what's going on here? Why am I confused? So C and D, D and E, F, G, G, A, B. Oh. Dumbass. Hopefully you people in the know were beating the crap out of your keyboards, writing me nasty comments. There is no B sharp C flat. There is only B to C. So that's where I knew it's like something was accused. Okay, because I started on a minor chord and I wanted to do minor, and I discombobulated myself. So anyways, yeah, there's our final note is a C. B sharp, C flat. What an idiot. Like, how did I not know that? But anyways, funny. So I knew that, like when you have a scale that uses the black keys, one thing I've already known by studying music theory is that there's a few keys, I think it's 2, maybe 3, but they use all the black keys, and then they have to have 2 other white notes available because a major scale has 7 tones, and there's only 5 black keys, so 5, 6, 7, so there needs to be 2 white keys, and now we found them. So let's say you had a C sharp. We need the notes, so we'd have a root. This would be our 2. We wouldn't want our 2, we'd want our 3 for the root 3. We don't want a 4, we want a 5. So the roots of our notes of our chord are going to be a black key, a white key, a black key, and even if we wanted the 7th, let's make it a dominant 7th chord. Oh yeah. So we'll do this to make it clear for you. We'd skip the 2, we'd skip the 4 because chords are 1, 3, 5, and a 7. So we'd skip the 6, and we'd pick a 7. And we're going to pick the flat 7. So our notes, therefore, are going to be C sharp. We're just going to use the sharps then. We want C sharp, F, G sharp, and B. And that should be found in this chord here. So let's see what we got. Here's the C, or the C sharp. Oh, sorry, that would be this one. My bad. So there's our C sharp. Let's see if our guitar fingering held up. This should be the 7th note. What is this one? That's a B. Hey, look, we got the B. Okay. Do you know what note that is? I don't know off the top of my head from that position, but I always just go down an octave. And I can clearly see that that is an F. Let's check box. We have the F. And Houston, do we have a G sharp? Well, our fingering has this in the chord. G sharp. We have it. So there you have it. That's how these chords are working. This is a major third. That interval is a flat third, and that is a minor third. That's how it's stacked. If you heard about chord stacking notes, that's how the stack works. And it's actually a third from the C to there is the, so that's here to here, here to here, and here to here as a stack. But if we just go from the root, we have the third, and then we have the 5th, and then we have the flatted 7th. Oh, went way off the screen again. So we can see how chords are built. 3, 5, flatted 7th, or a major third, and then stack a minor third and a minor third, and get a dominant 7th chord. Now on the guitar here, you'll notice that the 7th was on top, and the 3rd, and then the 5th. You can do that on a guitar. It's kind of a necessity of the fingering that makes these chords easy to finger. And so if we wanted to figure out like something based on a 2 chord, so 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 7. 7 is how you can do that fast. That's how you can do that fast. And then add in your little flats, a sharp and a flat. Okay. Okay. So now we're starting on the 2 of the scale. So this, we basically, if we were starting on this 2, we would have basically, we're thinking do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti. The 2. So if we were building, then what note do we want? What are you guys saying out there? F sharp, just to make it confusing, right? F sharp, minor 7th. How is it built? And it's the we'll just use the 2 chord because the 2 is minor. So we put an F here. All right, so let's build our scale. It always goes F, G, A, B, F, gab. There's always a, oh man, I fucked all that up because we started on F sharp, right? So if this is going to be F sharp, then this is going to be, we got to make that a slash because it's going to be F sharp G, right? So then this is going to be F, G, A, B for F gab, then C, C, D and F gab, right? C, D, E, and then F gab. It's always easy to remember. Then here are going to be our black keys, or what we call, or I call, slash notes, because slash between G sharp, A flat, A sharp, B flat, C sharp, D flat, D sharp, E flat, and then an F back there for the 7th, and back to the 1 of F sharp, G flat. So, and then I'll give you a little piano example later, so let's mark out our piano keys, see if we got this all right. Should be 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2. Perfect. Okay. So, our chord, then, if we were to go to our scale here, skip this, we want to start on the re, skip the mi, go to the fa, so we need an F sharp, A, skip the so, go to la, we need C sharp, D, and then skip the la, go to T, D sharp, E. And that should spell out a F sharp minor chord, minor 7, F sharp minor 7. So let's see, is the difference between F and A, or F sharp and A, a flatted third. So here's the A, look at that, it lines up on flatted third. C to D is the 5th. Pretty cool. And I even made it more confusing by saying, like, let's go to, fa and so and la. All I actually needed to do to make this easy was go, here's your root, then pick the flat third, A, pick the 5, which is C sharp, D, and then pick a 7th. If we wanted a dominant 7th, it's going to be the E. So look at that. We screwed up there. If you're catching these screw-ups as I make them, well, good for you. So F sharp minor 7th should look like this. It should be this chord. Because I know the fingering, it's very easy. It's basically the playing A chord. But instead of playing that A note, cancel it out with the 2nd note of the E string, the F sharp for the root. Hence F sharp minor 7th. A lot like that dominant 7th chord that had basically this note changed to there. The minor 3rd to the major 3rd. Happy. It fits, but it's not happy. Sad. Happy. Sad. Right there I should have F sharp, A, or basically F sharp, E, and then the C sharp, D, and the A. Let's see if I got that right. So there's the A. And the C sharp, D. B, C, C sharp, D. So we'll check that off. Yeah, we got all our notes. And when, you can pick these out, you don't have to finger it like this, like the standard chord. You can find another way. You can put the root on the top. You can find other ways to multiply, double up, and switch roots around, and still create a chord that will function like this chord or in place of this chord. If you want to jazz things up a bit. And why is it minor? So you can see from the F to the A is a flatted third. So it's not the major third. If you were to make this a major third, you would choose the A sharp B, and then it would be major. So intervals and chords, and how major becomes minor. For the beginners, I got a few minutes here. I guess I'll keep going on, but it is drawing a little late in the day and do have some things to get done, so check for anyone saying hello or some comments. And at an hour and 20 minutes, we've got nobody watching and no comments. So I think it tells me it's probably time to end the video. So I'm going to say a big thank you to my latest subscriber, Kurt Kavanaugh. A fond see you later to that subscribers I lost. But sometimes I think YouTube channels just get old and deleted. After someone isn't on there, it might have been a subscriber from 7 or 8 years ago. So then that might be why things drop away. Because I was at 700, then 702, then back down to 690, something like that. I don't know what happened. So, but I appreciate the new people that do hop on board. And Dora, thank you once again for your comment. Time to make a concise course that doesn't ramble on like these live videos for an hour and change that makes it so no one will probably ever watch. But thank you if you did make it this far. It was super awesome being here because it's going to be another 3 weeks before I can get back here. I'm going to be going down the road, driving, just thinking about, I could be home making a lesson. I could be home making my course, making this something real. But okay. Enjoy. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day. Peace.